Good morning. It is 7:06 a.m. on Tuesday, September 14th, 2021. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. So, uh, I've been listening to the audiobook of Stephen King's Christine. Now, the reason for that is because on several of the podcasts I listen to, people have mentioned that they are really enjoying a podcast called Just King Things, which is basically going through all of Stephen King's published works in publication order. And definitely a fan of Stephen King as a writer. I haven't read everything that he's written. He does have his quirks, you might say. I think it's pretty well accepted that endings tend to not be the best parts of his books necessarily, but he has written some really amazing stuff that I enjoy. Yes, here's a random person on the internet talking about a big famous best-selling author and saying, "Good, yes, I like them." You know what? It's fine. But the point being that I decided to check out that podcast, and the very first episode in their sequence was Christine, and I realized, gosh, that's one of his books that I've never read, and I haven't even seen the movie version. So I decided, you know what? Maybe instead of just jumping right into the podcast with an episode about something that I haven't read, maybe I should read it, So I decided to get the audiobook version because I was actually had just been thinking on that point that although there are many podcasts that I listen to and enjoy on a regular basis, a handful of them were sort of on breaks at the moment, and so I was out of new episodes and, get the new audiobook. So I'm now about 75% through Christine. And one of the things that's, definitely makes me envious of Stephen King, I think, is that, like, I feel like one of the things that's funny about his books and his writing just in general is that his it's a lot of it does tend to be style over substance. Not that there isn't often substance there, but Christine is just such a good example of a book where just the very premise of it is a little goofy. If you're not familiar, Christine is the killer car one. It is, this kind of nerdy, unliked kid encounters this old beat up 1957 Plymouth Fury and decides to fix it up, but eventually it turns out that the car is alive slash possessed, a little bit unclear, and it starts killing people that he doesn't like. And yeah, but so like the premise, is a little weird, and even as presented in the book, like I'm waiting to see if the ending resolves it a little bit more clearly. But even at this point in the book that I'm at right now, it's a little bit all over the place. Like it's like is it possessed by its own sort of spirit, its own self? Because they talk about they personify the car, Christine, and talk about it like it has a will of its own. But then there's also a lot of stuff about the previous owner, and so this kid who's got the car is acting like the previous owner. But then that kind of makes it seem like, okay, but well, is it the car or is it the guy? It's a little unclear and it's a little muddled, but it's compelling nonetheless because the writing is just so good, and that's what I'm often envious of Stephen King about. But in any case, I'm enjoying it, and it. But it does just make the point, I think, that there are a lot of, the idea of a book and the book itself are different things. That simultaneously you can have a good idea for a story, but if you can't make it into an actual novel or a book or a story, like you can't get it into, words on a paper instead of just the idea, it's kind of not anything. Versus the idea that you can make a very goofy idea into a very compelling book if you have the writing for it. I don't know. I'm not sure I have any special revelation or anything about any of that, but that's just what I'm thinking about this morning as I listen to, you know, revving up towards the climax of Christine. So I'll leave it there and talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes.